So I needed a story for today's lesson. I prayed, I opened up God's Word, and boom, right there on that page was a perfect story for you. Before I tell you the story, let's review. New start. It is what we want for our holistic health, our holistic living. We have nutrition, exercise, water, sunlight, temperance, air, rest, and now we're going to finish up the acronym, that final T, with trust in the Lord. That can be a really difficult one to do sometimes, but it is our calling to trust in the Lord. And the reason it's difficult is because we live in a world of things seen. We live in a world of what is around us. We feel our health. We see our health. We see the issues. We feel that pain, right? Our health can be really fragile. Many times, sometimes, our health is just fragile. We do everything we can to build good immune system and we still get sick. We do everything we can to lose weight and yet we don't lose weight. We do everything we can to help our aches and pains in our joints and it just doesn't seem to get better. We do everything we can and sometimes we still struggle. We still get sick. We still get cancer. We still get diabetes. Whatever it is, we still get ill no matter what we are doing. And this is where faith in God, trust in God is so important. We do not see the big picture. We do not see the end from the beginning. We only see what we can see, but He sees so much more. He knows exactly why each path He wants us to take, why He has you feeling the way you do, even if you're trying to do your best. He sees it all. We have to rely on Him. We must trust Him because He knows more than you and I. We want to always do, though, our best. Though we don't see the big picture, though we can't have the knowledge that He has, and even though we do our best and we still get sick sometimes, we are called to do our best, to rely on what He has taught us in that New Start acronym, to do everything possible to do our best, and the rest is up to Him. Whatever we eat, whatever we drink, we want to do all for the glory of God, as we already learned in this series. We want to put all of our nutrition, all of our health, exercise, water, the whole acronym, we want to put all of it into God's glory and do everything we can to honor Him. And what takes place is up to Him. We have to have that trust in His greater knowledge. Regardless of what takes place, even if we get sick, even if we get down, and physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, whatever it is that is dragging us down, we have to continue to fight back, continue to trust, continue to have that faith, even if it seems that things are not getting any better. Because God promises to never leave us nor forsake us, right? He promises that He is always doing what's best for those who love the Lord. He doesn't say He's doing what's easiest. He doesn't say He's doing what will make us feel the best. That's coming next time. We're going to talk about that in our next lesson. There is a day coming when everything will get better permanently, forever, eternally. But right now, He promises to do what is best for those who love Him. So, what about that story? We have a time period when Israel had splintered into two kingdoms. There was two kingdoms, two kings, the whole bit. There was Israel to the north, Judah to the south. Israel had the greater population, it had the greater amount of land, but Judah had Jerusalem. Okay, so it was definitely in terms of population, and definitely in terms of men of valor, the ability to have a greater army. It was definitely not a fair fight if you compare the two. The northern kingdom of Israel was much larger and had a greater army. So these two powers typically lived together peacefully, side by side. Judah was about 50-50. They would honor God for a while, then they would honor the pagan gods. And then they would honor God for a while, then they would honor the pagan gods of the world. Israel was almost definitely, totally, completely following the gods of Canaan. Almost exclusively denying the power of the true God, the real God, their God, right? The God of Israel. So there came a time in 2 Chronicles chapter 13 where these two actually were going to go to war. Abijah, the king of Judah, Jeroboam, the king of Israel, had decided enough was enough. They didn't want to live side by side anymore. It was time to take some land back, and they went to war. I want to pick up the story in chapter 12 here, when Abijah, who is a godly king, Judah is following God at this time, and they are standing up against they're the underdogs, and they're standing up against, I guess you could call, the champions, the ones that everyone expects to win this battle. Now Abijah, through his ancient bullhorn, his messengers, he casts out a message to the people of Israel. He says this in verse 12. Now look, God himself is with us as our head, and his priests with sounding trumpets to sound the alarm against you. O children of Israel, do not fight against the Lord God of your fathers, for you shall not prosper. All right, if they looked at what was seen, what was visible, bigger army, greater army, smaller group, the underdogs. But the underdogs have a trust in the Lord. By the way, the priests sound their trumpet here. In the times of the Bible, the sounding of trumpets by the priests was done in two situations, either in war or a religious ceremony. And this seems to be both right here. This was a defensive war for Judah. They were being attacked. Israel had come against them, and they were relying on God. This was a war where they had God as their captain. And yet, Abijah, because he's walking in God's ways, gives them an ounce of mercy. Even though he's the underdog. He's the underdog, but he gives an ounce of mercy and says, hey guys, have you noticed? We have God on our side. You don't want to pick a fight with us. You may outnumber us. You may be bigger. You may be better. Don't deal with us. Don't mess with us. Join us. Follow God, because you're not going to win this war. He is not focused on the things that are seen. He's focused on his trust in the Lord. Story continues, verse 13. It's going to get even worse for Abijah. Catch this. But Jeroboam caused an ambush to go around behind them. So they were in front of Judah, and the ambush was behind them. Abijah has declared to Israel, to Jeroboam, you will not win this war. No, not going to happen. We have the Lord on our side. Jeroboam, relying on his own works, relying on his own group, his own faith, in his own gods, the gods of the world, the fake pretend gods, these lowercase g gods, right? He thinks, oh wow, really? You've got the plan, huh? You've got God on your side? Well, get this. And he sends an ambush, so now Abijah and the soldiers of Judah are now surrounded. They're outnumbered, outclassed, and they're surrounded. This doesn't sound like a good formula for Abijah. Keep reading. Verse 14. And when Judah looked around, to their surprise, the battle line was at both front and rear. They were caught off guard. They didn't see this coming. Abijah was declaring, God's with us. And all of a sudden, whoa. Now all of a sudden they realize, big problems. When Judah looked around at their surprise, the battle line was at both front and rear, and they called out to the Lord, and the priests sounded their trumpets. They didn't quit. They didn't run away. They didn't just lay down and only assume a miracle was coming. They were active with God. They did their best. They still sounded the trumpets. They still sounded the war call. We are going to fight. They had trust. They didn't just lay down. They didn't complain. They didn't murmur. They didn't say, poor me. They didn't have a pity party. They did their best. They trusted and they sounded their alarms and they went to fight. Verse 15, then the men of Judah gave a shout. And as the men of Judah shouted, it happened that God struck Jeroboam and all Israel before Abijah and Judah. And the children of Israel fled before Judah, and God delivered them into their hand. It's a good lesson for us today. Perfect lesson. Seriously. Grab the Bible. I prayed, okay, Lord, I don't know what story. There's lots of stories of trust in the Lord. I wanted a story that maybe you hadn't heard before, or at least a story maybe you don't hear often. I thought, okay, Lord, show a story. Boom. 2 Chronicles 13 was opened up before me. God wanted this lesson to be right here for this topic. Trust in the Lord. Do your best. Learn from the lessons of Abijah and his soldiers. They didn't give up. They didn't lay down. They didn't run home. They didn't forget God. They sounded the alarm. They cried out to God. They shouted victory. And then they did their best. They went after Israel. And they were victorious that day because they trusted in the Lord. All looked lost. An ambush took place. Judah had their backs against the wall. You could almost say literally, right? Their backs were against a wall of soldiers. They had been outsmarted, but they were faithful. They trusted, and they were delivered. Catch what Paul says here. We've been dealing out with what Paul says. I want to catch what Paul says in Romans chapter 12, and then we'll wrap this up. Romans 12, verse 21. Nice, short, important verse, not just for this discussion, but for a lesson in life. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Don't be overcome by evil. There's a lot of problems. Life throws at us a lot of oppressive issues and problems. Our health throws at us a lot of issues. I think I mentioned this before. Every time I seem to try to get focused and do good and make sure I'm exercising, I always seem to have injuries. Right now, I was doing some jogging this week, trying to get back out there and do some jogging, running around with the kids, playing ball tag. Since we've got this quarantine here on this nice, beautiful campus, my knees have been just killing me. And I don't know if something terrible is happening, like if I've torn some cartilage, my knees are killing me, hurting at night, they throb, or if I'm just that out of shape, I don't know. But it seems like every time I try to get focused and try to do what's right and try to, do my best, I always seem to have issues and problems and pains or injuries. We may look outnumbered. Life throws a lot of evil at us, a lot of trouble at us, a lot of disease at us, a lot of things that we cannot, in our own powers, always fight off. But we do our best. We overcome evil with good. How can we overcome diseases with good? It's our trust in the Lord. That's the only one that is guaranteed. You can eat right, exercise right, drink water, have sun, breathe fresh air, get plenty of rest, show temperance, I forgot the T, show good temperance and control over your life and over your passions of what we eat and what we drink. You might do all of those things and still not be able to overcome all bad things that attack your health. The only way you can do so, the greatest thing you can do, the best thing you can do is trust in the Lord. He has promised, He will always do what's best for those who love Him. So trust the Lord. Trust Lord. We're going to pick this up in our last one next time. There is a beautiful day coming up. It's why we're covering this. But that day is when Jesus comes. So get ready, everybody. Do your best. Trust in the Lord because Jesus is coming soon.